Motion to AI booth. So thank you very much for joining us. And thank you to Motion to AI as well for hosting us here in their booth. My first guest today is Jack Peck. He is the president and founder of FastFetch Corporation. And Jack's going to tell us a little bit about FastFetch Corporation, how they work with order fulfillment equipment like picking carts, put walls, and some other things too. So Jack, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Definitely happy to have you on. Happy to kind of hear about FastFetch and your story as well. But first off, tell us how's the show so far?
Show's going great. We have a lot of good traffic, and we'll find out, of course, when we sign on the back of the check. That's the ultimate test of whether or not it was really worth it.
Do the checks cash after the show? That's the key, right, to a successful event. So,
you got it.
So tell us a little bit about FastFetch and what it is that you guys do.
Well, we're founded in 2006 by two Clemson University professors.
One being you.
I'm
right.
one of them.
Yes, yeah, okay.
Specializing in software and hardware. Mm-hmm. So our products really involve both hardware and software that we develop.
Interesting.
And we're in order fulfillment, as you said, and we're also in packaging. That is to say, we select the right pack, the right box for whatever we know is going in it.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm curious. Started as in academia as computer scientist, and then decided to get into order fulfillment side. So what really kind of made that switch for you, and what triggered the idea to, hey, let me try out this order fulfillment thing on the software and hardware side? What was that spark that lets you want to start to do that?
Well, there's, necessity is the mother of invention, of course. And in academia, you have an opportunity for 3 months of unemployment every year.
Sure.
And so I used to do a lot of consulting in our area of the country, southeast, in South Carolina. There's a lot of textiles and apparel. So we started out doing, in another company I had, Foxfire Technologies, doing a lot of work in real-time shop floor control, primarily for textile and apparel. Okay. The apparel business went offshore. We transitioned to distribution, visited a lot of distribution centers, saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. The bad in particular, we addressed, found out some clever ways of solving a lot of the problems that we saw, went ahead and filed for patents. The patents came through, began to develop products, and we spun off FastFetch from the other company in 2006. And same ownership, and then sold Foxfire, and we've continued in this area ever since. So it was really one of those things, it was natural to apply some of the things that we did in the research lab in computer science to build products, industrial products. Universities are really good at research. They're really not real good at building products after that, though.
Good at the research, maybe not so great at the execution, right, on that side?
Exactly.
So, tell us a little bit, because you mentioned in there you're involved in the software and then the hardware side. Now, I guess tell us from your perspective, because we see, I think, visually, especially when you're at a show like this, right next to us, we see there's some robotics. The hardware is very easy to catch your eye, right?
Yes.
But tell us, I guess, foundationally, how important is the software behind that hardware to make the actual solution powerful enough to solve your problems?
When you're developing hardware, you better know something about software or you're not going to do it properly. Because software provides the flexibility of the hardware to be adapted to different types of problems in different types of ways. Yeah. So you really have to have both skills to really do the job properly.
Interesting. So tell us, I guess, for FastFetch, how does the software that you have and then your hardware interact, and how do they kind of balance each other out?
Well, for one thing, for example, we develop hardware, pick-to-light, as most people are familiar with. Yes. Pick-to-light systems have a big computer back in the back room someplace that runs all the lights. Yeah. We don't. There's no computer connected to our lights. Okay. And so what we do is we have a cart. This is one example of many of our products. Yeah. We have a cart that actually rolls down an aisle. You tell, we use voice, output only, not input. It'll say, go down to aisle A. You have a trainee, it's real easy to find aisle A. They start rolling down the aisle, and it'll say stop when you get to the right bay. It knows where you are. And so we use hardware for doing that. We don't use Wi-Fi, don't use RFID, don't use a lot of the things that come to mind. We use infrared. Same thing in your remote control that you have on your TV, except it's bi-directional. Yeah. And so we're continually looking using infrared for a particular bay. When you get there, the bay answers with infrared and says you're here, we use infrared to send back. It says you're to send it messages, turn on these lights because we need to pick something from this bay. Of course, the cart will say stop when you get there since it recognizes that. So it doesn't use GPS because GPS doesn't work in metal buildings. So that's the kind of technology that understands, the software and hardware have to work together in order to create the right solution.
Very interesting. And it's interesting too that you kind of threw out a lot of the maybe buzz technology that's out there, the RFID, all those different things. I mean, so tell us, I guess why go that route? I mean, if I'm a shipper and I'm doing order fulfillment, like why would I look at your solution, which is utilizing infrared, like you mentioned, versus utilizing something that's using RFID or some of the other technologies that you mentioned?
One, of course, is cost.
Sure.
The other is reliability. Infrared's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's reliable. Everybody uses it in their den when they turn their TV on and off and change channels. So it's a good technology to use. One of the advantages, of course, is what we call close proximity.
Okay.
I want to be within about 10 or 12 feet from a picking bay. I don't want to talk to every bay in the entire warehouse. I want to talk to the one I'm close to. Unlike Wi-Fi, which you can be talking with everything, I want to talk to one that's close by. So infrared is the right technology for that particular application. RFID would be a possibility, but again, you're talking to all of the bays that are close by. You're not talking to a particular one that you're near.
Interesting. So I mean, in that sense too, I mean, you mentioned that another pick to light solution would have a big computer in the back that's powering these lights and running these lights, where yours doesn't. So on the implementation side, does that make it a much simpler implementation?
It makes it much simpler. All we have to run is 24 volts to each bay.
Okay.
Each bay is pretty much standalone, so it's scalable. So you can add 1,000 more bays. It does not affect the performance of this cart in front of one bay talking to it with infrared. So you can add 100 more carts. It doesn't affect the performance of this one cart talking to this one bay that's in front, that it's next to.
Oh, okay.
So again, you have a great deal of capability with that, and it's completely scalable. So you can add more and more and more without diluting the performance.
Interesting. So I mean, it sounds like it's a pretty great way, I guess, to optimize your picking in a better sense, get some efficiencies with a pretty easy implementation without going, full out robots, fully automated, and all that kind of thing, right?
Exactly. It's the right technology for the problem. I like robotics. I've studied robotics.
Yeah.
We can interface with robots, but the truth is, robots can't pick product yet.
Right.
I can't pick an eyelash and an anvil with the same end effector.
Yeah.
So robots have a long ways to go in terms of picking. Typically, if you look at the robotic applications, then they're good. I'm not knocking them now.
Yeah.
But in terms of what they can and can't do, it's either a person following the robot, walking along, and then when it stops, it'll pick the product and put it in a box or a tote. Or the other way is to have a person assigned to a zone. The robot shows up and you go over to the robot, pick the product, put it in it, and then the robot takes off.
Right.
And of course, with that second type, you did oftentimes have problems with people being idle while it's waiting for robots to show up. The way to solve that, of course, is to have more robots.
Right.
The robot manufacturers love that, of course.
Sure.
But after a while, you get so many robots, you have congestion. And then there are other problems that arise. So what we say is it's going to take people anyway. So what we do is we offer a much, much less costly solution, which probably addresses 80% of the people, the warehousing, if you will, that's out there versus the 10% that can really afford and utilize robots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that makes a lot of sense too, because it's still like at a point too where I think that, robots there's still a barrier of entry there too, especially like when you look at we talked about the software, like making sure you have the right systems in place to be able to implement them and integrate. And things like that. And it's not necessarily the answer to everybody's problems, even though, some marketing may say it is, right?
Marketing's great.
Yes,
I'll give it that.
Yeah. So there's that, right? But I'm curious, I mean, in that sense, and you mentioned, you're a professor, you got academia, does a lot of research. So I'm sure you're always in touch with the market. I mean, right now, when you look at the order fulfillment landscape and, just talking to people here, even at the show, I mean, what are you seeing are some of the largest challenges for shippers trying to do fulfillment right now?
Well, one of the things, and everybody's experienced this, you get a big box with a little something in it with a lot of dunnage, the filler material. everybody curses and hates that because they know that somebody's paying for that for that shipping the big bucks. And guess who it is in the end of the day?
Yeah, it's a customer.
The guy that received it, because everybody raises their prices to factor that in. So what we have, in fact, we have it demonstrated here at the show. We have developed algorithms which will tell you what box to select from your inventory at the time you're ready to pack, or even before you even start picking which box to take with you, which will have minimal air in it. And that's a real challenge. And we're using some artificial intelligence for that. Actually, we're using genetic algorithms. So we're born from the principles of biology. Things we did in the laboratory at the university, we've now moved them out into practice. As I say, we're now practicing what we used to preach.
Yeah, very interesting. And it's interesting how you're able to take that technology from earlier research and now apply that, because it is a huge issue, not only from just the perspective of cost of extra packaging and the perspective of inefficiencies, but from a sustainability standpoint too, right? I mean, shipping air is, why are we shipping air? Like, we don't need to do that, right?
Well, it's not only the air, but it's, dim weights are what most of the small parcel carriers are using nowadays. It gets expensive. But not only that, you're using more corrugated material than you ought to be using. Your shipping costs are larger. Your labor's larger. Oftentimes, if someone guesses at the box that they're going to need is too small, they dump it out, they get another one. Pretty soon they get one that's too big because it's too much trouble to guess right. And so that's very costly in labor. And the other thing is, of course, your social responsibility to the environment.
Right.
If everybody uses the boxes twice as big as it needs to be, your shipper is flying 2 airplanes, driving 2 trucks, so the carbon footprint is a problem. We're chopping down more trees, we're destroying animal habitat, so there are a lot of other things which are kind of intangibles in many ways, but still important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a good point, and it's such an easy way to also point out that sustainability efforts can also save you money at the same time.
Absolutely, right? They go together. In this, they don't always, but in this particular case, they're very, very closely aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, for FastFetch as a solution, if a shipper, a 3PL is listening to this, watching this, and they want to know, like, are they at a point where FastFetch makes sense for them? I mean, where should they really be at, and when would they look at your solutions to be able to start to implement?
Well, we are the low price guys in the neighborhood, I guess you might say, because we develop our own hardware. We don't have a middleman. We don't physically stuff components on circuit boards. We outsource that, but we design it, we develop it, we write the firmware, and this firmware talks. We know it's compatible with the software, and on and on and on. Lots of advantages, so we can be low cost. But the other thing is, we go in and we look at the problem, we look at the volume, we look at the requirements for accuracy, the requirements for speed, and if we can't provide the technology they need, we tell them that. Or if someone else can, we'll refer them to them. We're interested in solving the problems. Most of the time we can, but if we can't, we let them know it.
Yeah, I love that honesty. I mean, that's great. Definitely. So very interesting stuff with you here, Jack, and really interested to learn about FastFetch, and great to get some of your knowledge too on the industry as a whole, both from the academia side and also the now practitioner, implementer of what you preached, as you said. So if people are interested in learning more about FastFetch, what's the best way to do that?
Well, you can go to our website, of course. www.fast, F-A-S-T-F-E-T-C-H, all together, .biz. That's Baker Indigo Zebra on the end, not .com, but Baker Indigo Zebra.
All right, definitely. So, Jack, thank you so much for coming by the booth and talking to us here at CSCMP Edge.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, have a good one. All right, so that was Jack of FastFetch Corporation. And then we're going to have our next guest come up, and we're good. All right, thank you.